So one of the things that I've been interested in is epigenetics. It was one of the things that came up during my time spent traveling 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. And the idea that things can change or be altered, because I had a very direct experience of that when I was at a retreat those 2 years ago. And it's been on my mind ever since. It's been in the back of my mind ever since. I've always been curious about it. I've been curious about it for such a long time. But this comes with a story first. This comes with an experience that I had that directly relates with epigenetics, and it was directly related in a way that I didn't fully understand, not yet at least. So, cilantro. Most people understand cilantro as this thing that you can taste differently depending on genetic factors. Your genetic disposition can alter what it tastes like because your genes express the taste of cilantro differently to your brain, to the chemistry of your body. It understands the taste differently. It understands it differently. And I experienced that the first time I ever tasted cilantro was when I was homeless with my immediate family, my father, my mother, my brother. We lived in the desert for a really long time. It's a big part of my own experience with life, having gone through homelessness, having gone through experiencing living outside of an area that's just nothing but sand, learning what it's like to let go of times in which I felt alone and distant and unconnected in a lot of ways in different avenues of my life. It's a big part of my story, my own personal story growing up. But when I was there, still in the desert and still experiencing that, we ended up with an ex of mine. We ended up sharing their food and stuff like that because we would go shopping and then bulk up on the food and everything to ensure everybody, was getting a good amount of food. Apparently, my friend, who was my ex, she was using some seasoning combination that had cilantro in it. So when I tasted it and when my mom tasted it, we both had the same response that tasted like soap, as if dish soap was stuck on a spoon or something and was mixed into the dish. But it was the first time I ever had cilantro. We didn't cook with cilantro in my house regularly, so I never experienced it. I never experienced it outside that moment. But when I did, it tasted like soap. So automatically, I would assume that I am disproposed. My translation of genetics, the way my body understands cilantro is, hey, this is soap. Based on the aromatics of that particular seasoning. Cilantro's flavor profile and the way that you breathe and the way that oxygen and all the combinations of chemicals come into contact with it, it translates into soap. When, obviously it's not soap to people who don't have that. They know what cilantro tastes like versus people who only taste soap when they taste cilantro. So I had that experience, and we tried to figure it out and everything, and we were like, oh, cilantro is in the seasoning. And it's like, okay, so obviously we have that disposition. Move forward, 3 years? 4 years after that moment? 3 years. 3 years after that moment, I ended up experiencing a dish made by a friend of mine who was hosting this retreat that I was in, mentor and friend. And she had cilantro in what she made, and she was like, here, try some. And I'm like, the last time I had cilantro, it tasted like soap. And it was just nonchalant, well, try it again. And I was like, the possibility, the only thing that came to my mind is it is possible that I could just properly taste cilantro. And I felt this ping and almost like a burn sensation with none of the pain. It was just like pressure, and then like the best way I can describe it is like a ping. Like suddenly something changed in my brain, in my body too. And then when I tasted it, I could actually taste the cilantro. I knew what cilantro tasted like instead of what it tasted like before, which was soap. That's how easy it is to change our genetics. Because the idea is that it's not a brain thing, it's a genetic marker that is turned on. So, epigenetics, the reason coming back all the way to epigenetics is that when you are going through things, it's nature and nurture combined into one specific attribute in the body. What genetic factors come up, like say balding and stuff, that kind of stuff is just your genetics choosing to display those attributes in your genes. It has nothing to do with every mitigating factor, but it has everything to do with the idea that what you're naturally deposed, whatever you are naturally inclined genetically to have going on inside of your body, your genetics kind of already know it. It's already coded. Epigenetics is the idea that one side gets favored over the other, so your genetics can read in different segments for like different things that are going on in your body, but they don't get turned on until you've reached a very specific kind of both nature and nurture version of what's happening. If you're nurturing your body in unhealthy habits, for example, that could alter the way your body's health deteriorates or changes over time, versus if you're taking care of your body and you're nurturing, outside of your given circumstance, you're doing things that like otherwise you wouldn't really think of, like me automatically assuming that I could eat cilantro and actually know what cilantro tastes like, to feel that ping and things change, my genetics altering to understand cilantro rather than alter it, because that is specific. It is a very specific genetic relationship and coding in the body. It's possibility. Epigenetics is translation of fate and destiny, kind of, in a very interesting dynamic that I didn't really think about until I started going into it more. Is like, you have the disposition for something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come about. Like say, eye issues. Like, I'm the only person in my family who turned off that disposition in my genetics to have bad or worsening eyesight. My eyesight tends to be pretty well most days. But has been fine. I don't need contacts, I don't need glasses, but my brother has glasses, my mom has glasses, my dad has glasses. But that's the relationship therein of epigenetics in one way, where the translation isn't always the same for everybody in your family. It's like what health issues, diabetes, strokes, heart issues, all the different diseases and otherwise everything else in your body functions the way it's supposed to, is all translated through epigenetics. So in a lot of ways, you have more say over what is happening in your body than most people would assume, because if it's genetic markers, most people assume that genetic means fate. You're fated to have these issues because it's in your bloodline, it's in your lineage, it's in all of these things. But same too is the idea of like, you can magically flip that switch somehow, some way. You may not know exactly how, but you can flip that switch at any time, just as my own experience with cilantro taught me that I can do that. I can turn on and off different ways of understanding a seasoning like cilantro. Like, it's so bizarre, but at the same time it's such a powerful feat of understanding how it works, because most people assume that like, in order to make a change like that, you would have to understand epigenetics on such a like deep level, or take a drug to do that. But as a person who's experienced actually knowing what cilantro tastes like after it was soap, it is profound. It is very different. It's something that was literally right in front of me that I experienced, that I never really concretized into something that I've learned. I've learned that there is a way to just assume the possibility that a genetic marker can just be flipped when it has shown itself in one way before. So just like with balding and everything, that relationship can be flipped. It's possible. And the irony is I've done it before with cilantro. I've done it with cilantro before. So one of the things I've really had an interest in ever since the retreat, and ever since getting to know more about like what it is that's true for me, is like helping that relationship of epigenetics turn one specific genetic trait off and turn on the other, to like flip that switch. Because the idea is epigenetics is a switch that you're flipping. So either the light is on or the light is off. So in this case, the on would be things are what they are, which means your body is healthy, your body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. The switch is off, which means whatever proteins, minerals, whatever is going through the body is not being used or regulated in a way that translates to a healthy outcome, which is powerful. To master a technique like that would be incredibly powerful, let alone would change so many people's lives on many different levels, and not all of them just being surface things, but like a lot of them being deep things, such as disease, such as illness, such as chronic issues that appear only because the epigenetics switch is on or is off rather than on, and allowing you to live a life that is more beneficial and more healthy and more connected, more diverse, and more contributing to a better life overall. But yeah, I wanted to record this video and share this video, because sometimes we do things without realizing we've done something that people are trying to do, science is trying to understand on such a higher level, to create drugs or to create these chemical outcomes where they can alter these things utilizing drugs and stuff, when in reality we also just naturally have the disposition to create those kind of outcomes, even if we don't fully understand how or even what way that actually works, because there's plenty of examples where that kind of stuff comes in handy. For two more stories of like doing something without being taught, my brother, every time he eats something, it's either fish or ground beef or ground turkey, he finds a bone in it. Nobody else does. Mostly we don't find bone in what we eat, but for some reason my brother does every single time. Near about at least 90% of the time. It tends to go in that direction. Another was someone related to my dad. I think it was like an aunt of his or something. She would, every time she would open the bottle of like hot sauce, and then when she goes to like put hot sauce like down, it would always spit one little drop into her eye. So my dad's like, if it happens every time, just, put on sunglasses or glasses, something to cover your eyes. And then like she ended up doing it one day, like actually putting them on and doing that, and just one drop would always get right in that eye. And she's like, man, I never really thought about it. And that's the biggest thing, is we're so accustomed to experiencing life the way that we're experiencing life, that when something miraculous happens, or the possibility of something miraculous happening, we kind of question it because we're like, I don't know if that's entirely possible. It's somebody who has experienced what would seem impossible to be possible. It's possible, just based on like lived experience. But yeah, things are wild. But I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that there because this one I actually really want to share. I've been creating videos and just not sharing them, but I've been creating videos, and this one in particular I feel is most important because something about genetics is just really fascinating to me. But I know why genetics is fascinating to me, because the idea that you can turn on and off different things that are being translated through your genetic coding, but also through your body, implies that there's a lot of ways that we can heal, and there's a lot of ways that we can translate a fate into a destiny that we are creating for ourselves, even on a genetic level. So with that, the curiosity continues, and I highly encourage everyone to be curious. If you have questions, if you have, I don't know, anything that comes up for this, I would love to hear what you have to say. I'd love to hear what kind of like things you've noticed, something that like looking in hindsight you've had an experience that kind of got you questioning, because it's the questions that usually come first before things begin to really change, and that speeds other things up. But I leave that there. I'll catch you later.